So, have you ever been in a relationship that started out just amazing, right? But then over time, things get frustrating. Maybe the spark just feels gone. Well, today we're going to dive deep into the psychology behind that exact feeling. We're going to figure out why it happens, and more importantly, how you can build real, lasting emotional resilience with your partner. You know this idea, right? Love should make me always happy. I mean, we see it in movies, we hear it in songs. It's this fairy tale idea that love is supposed to be this constant state of pure bliss. But here's a thought. What if that very belief, that one expectation, is actually the thing that sets us up for failure? Let's dig into that. Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll tackle when the spark fades. Then we'll get into the psychology of frustration and figure out why small fights explode. After that, we're shifting gears to solutions with the science of understanding, and we'll finish up by looking at how you can actually rewrite your love story. Sound good? Let's get started. All right, let's jump right in. Section 1, when the spark fades. And I want to start by just acknowledging something really important. This is a super universal feeling. I mean, have you ever felt this? That incredible initial excitement of a new relationship just starts to cool down, and you get that little voice in your head asking, wait, is something wrong here? It's a really sinking feeling, isn't it? But here's the good news. You are definitely not alone. And more often than not, it doesn't mean something's broken. It just means things are changing. So if it's normal, why does it feel so frustrating? Well, that brings us right to our next section, the psychology of frustration. We're going to diagnose the why behind that fade. Okay, a big part of the why comes down to this massive clash between expectation and reality. On one hand, we have this idea that love should be easy and blissful. But then real life hits, and you realize love involves conflict, stress, even misunderstandings. That gap, that's what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. It's like your brain is trying to hold two opposite ideas at once, and it just creates this static, this frustration. And that frustration, it often has really deep roots, going all the way back to our childhood. This is where something called attachment theory comes in. Basically, the way we bonded with our parents when we were kids creates this kind of emotional blueprint. It's like the operating system that runs in the background of all our adult romantic relationships. So, to keep it simple, there are three main styles. You've got secure, where you're generally trusting and open. Then you have anxious, where there's a deep fear of abandonment. And finally, avoidant, where someone tends to be more emotionally distant. Now, when you get an anxious person paired with an avoidant person, wow, it's that classic push-pull. One person is constantly seeking reassurance, and the other feels totally smothered and pulls away. You can see how that becomes a really exhausting cycle. And if that wasn't enough, there's another thing our brains do. It's called hedonic adaptation. It's just a fancy way of saying we get used to stuff, even really good stuff. Think about it. That first bite of your favorite food is amazing, but the 10th bite, not as thrilling. The same thing happens with that initial rush of a new relationship. Your brain just adapts. It doesn't mean the love is gone, not at all. It just means your brain is doing what it's designed to do. And this is what that shift looks like biologically. The initial phase of love is this massive dopamine rush. It's all passion and excitement. But for love to last, it has to transition. It becomes driven by oxytocin, which is all about deep attachment and stability. So please don't think of this as a downgrade. It's really more like an upgrade to a calmer, more sustainable emotional system. See, when we don't understand that this shift is natural and normal, that's when the frustration really builds up. And that frustration, it's like gasoline on a fire. It's the reason why a tiny little disagreement can suddenly turn into a massive, explosive fight. And here's the science behind that explosion. It's a state called emotional flooding. This is absolutely crucial to understand. During a heated fight, you are literally not thinking with your whole brain. Your emotional center, the amygdala, completely hijacks your system. It's like your brain's alarm bell is ringing, and your logical, rational mind just shuts down. That's why an argument about who left the dishes out can suddenly feel like a fight for your life. You know, decades of research have shown us it's not if you fight that matters, it's how you fight. In fact, a psychologist named John Gottman got so good at this, he could predict with terrifying accuracy whether a couple would stay together or break up, just by watching them argue for a few minutes. And he did it by looking for four specific, incredibly destructive communication patterns. He called them the Four Horsemen. First up is criticism. And let's be clear, this is way different from a complaint. A complaint is about an action. Hey, you didn't take out the trash. Criticism is an attack on their very character. You're just so lazy you never help.
Next, and this one is the single biggest predictor of divorce, is contempt. This is when you communicate with actual disgust. We're talking sarcasm, mocking them, eye-rolling. It's basically saying, I'm better than you. It's pure poison.
Well, what happens when you get attacked? You defend yourself, right? And that's the third horseman, defensiveness. It feels natural, but all it really does is escalate the conflict. It's you playing the victim and refusing to take any responsibility.
And finally, after all this attacking and defending, one person just gets overwhelmed. That's when the fourth horseman rides in, stonewalling. They just shut down. They withdraw, give the silent treatment, and completely disengage. It's like hitting a brick wall. Okay, I know that was a lot, and it sounds pretty bleak, right? But here's the really good news. Just knowing what those four horsemen are is the first giant step to defeating them. So let's flip this around and talk about solutions. Let's get into the science of understanding. So, one of the most powerful antidotes to all that negativity is validation. And this is so, so important. Validation does not mean you agree. You don't have to agree with them at all. It just means you're acknowledging their feelings. Swapping your overreacting for, I can understand why that hurts you, changes everything. It tells their brain it's safe here, and it literally calms their nervous system down so you can talk. And that leads to this huge mental shift. You have to move away from defending your ego, from trying to prove who is right. Instead, you move toward collaborative problem solving, asking, how can we fix this together? It completely changes the game from being you versus me to us versus the problem. And this really comes down to which mindset you bring to your relationship. If you have a fixed mindset, you believe true love should just be easy, so any problem feels like a sign of failure. But if you have a growth mindset, you believe that relationships take effort and work. And suddenly, every challenge isn't a disaster. It's an opportunity to grow stronger together. And guess which one leads to a more satisfying partnership? Okay, so how do we put all of this into practice? This brings us to our final and maybe most important section, rewriting your love story. This is about throwing out that old fairy tale and building a new, better paradigm for success. And it really boils down to this. Building resilience together means focusing on 4 key things. 1, communicate openly, even when it's hard. 2, learn to regulate your own emotions to stop that flooding before it takes over. 3, genuinely try to show empathy, to see their side. And 4, take responsibility for your part. Resilient couples don't avoid problems, they learn from them. And that leaves us with this final thought. Love is not the absence of problems, it's the ability to solve them together. Maybe we need to stop chasing the idea of a perfect, problem-free relationship. Maybe the real goal, the most beautiful and lasting kind of love, is about becoming an amazing team, a team that knows how to face all of life's challenges side by side.